Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. Today we are going to take a look at a group of plants that you, the viewers, have requested. A few weeks ago, Jerry and I were talking about plants and just life in general, and we were asking you, what are some of categories of plants that you are looking for in your garden? So for example, like drought tolerant, deer resistant, hummingbird attractors, those kinds of things. And I would say one, if not the most popular question or request was for rabbit resistant plants. So that is what we are going to look at today. I am going to preface this. There is no such thing as a rabbit proof, a deer proof plant. If animals are hungry, they are going to eat whatever they can find. However, these plants that I am going to share with you today are across the board. If you research these groups of plants are generally known as being rabbit resistant. There are, we're going to look at most of the plants, if not the majority of the plants today, are all going to be perennials and then one shrub. So when I was doing my research, there were these perennials rather, and the shrub was widely recognized as being rabbit resistant. When I looked at annuals, because of course we all love our annual color, there was some mixed information, and I don't have good solid facts that I can confidently say this annual is rabbit resistant and you can safely plant it in your garden. Therefore, we're not going to have any annuals in this group of plants today that I'm talking about. However, iron sharpens iron, and so I would love it if you have personal experience with rabbits in your yard and you have found other plants that are not listed on the ones that I'm talking about today. Please list them in the comments below, because other viewers will read those comments and we will see and learn from one another. That is what is great about this gardening community, is that we can learn from one another. So if you have some tried and true rabbit resistant plants, please put them in the comments below. All right, so without further ado, let's get going. And I have my notes because we have a lot of plants to cover, and I want to give you the correct information. Now, okay, the first we have plants that we're going to talk about are Aelia or yarrow. Yarrow is known as being rabbit resistant. The two that I want to talk about, because yarrow is what I would call like your grandmother's, old-timey plant, like it's been around forever. And in the past, it could be quite a nuisance because it would spread in your garden. However, some of these new varieties are much more what I'll call well-behaved. They stay in their spot and they have nice, tight, upright stems and flowers on them. So Firefly Peach Sky is going to be for those folks who love that beautiful peach color. Firefly Peach Sky has light peachy orange flowers that will age to a nice, beautiful yellow. Aelia needs that full sun, so a minimum of 6 hours. So 6 hours all the way to full day sun. It is going to be a little bit tall, right? So it's going to be 36 inches tall by 32 inches wide. But that's the great thing about these new Aelia. Nice, strong stems. The Firefly collection from Proven Winners has been bred to have really strong, upright stems that do not flop. It's going to be hardy in zones 3 to 8. And again, it is rabbit resistant, also deer resistant. Not all plants go both ways, but a lot of times they do overlap. So this is also deer resistant, and it attracts your butterflies. And with that nice, strong, upright habit, and very well behaved. I have to tell you, very well behaved. Now, if you don't want to do the peachy color, then look at Firefly Sunshine. It's one of my personal favorites because it is a bright, cherry yellow. That same kind of habit as the Firefly Peach Sky. Strong upright stems on it, but it's going to be a little bit of a smaller plant. It is only going to be 30 inches tall by 28 inches wide. So if the Peach Sky is going to be too big for you, look at the Sunshine. Could be a really great option for you. But it is one of the very best yarrows for that long blooming color throughout the season. And then those bright cherry yellow flowers contrast really nicely with the dark gray-green foliage. Still hardy in zones 3 to 8. And then Aelia across the board is going to be drought tolerant, salt tolerant, and it has low to average water needs. So this is not one that you want to put tons of water on it. Once it's established, it is drought tolerant, so just minimal water will be good for those. Next, alliums. Alliums across the board are well known to be rabbit resistant. Why? Because alliums are onions. They belong in the onion family. Serendipity is a gorgeous allium. It is just a beautiful performer where it has these big, nice purple blooms on them, and that ball thatch at the top, kind of a bluish foliage. Stunning. And if you're familiar with allium, you might know like the well-known Millennium. Well, Serendipity is a sport of that, meaning that it's it comes from that line, but it has that great, beautiful blue foliage. So that's going to be the difference really of Millennium and Serendipity. Your alliums need that full to part sun, so I would say a minimum of 5 hours. You might get away with 4. You could try it, so 4 to 5 to all day sun. Hardy in zones 4 to 8, so it's going to be very cold tolerant, and this is going to be 20 inches tall and 15 inches wide, and that 20 inches is going to be including your blooms on it. It is a massive pollinator attractor. It is a beautiful, beautiful plant. When you have these, especially if you can put them in kind of a mass planting, and when I say mass planting, I mean like 2 to 3 or more together, it makes a huge attraction. And if you're looking to support your honeybees and your bumblebees, then Serendipity is definitely going to be the one for you. And if there's any doubt whether it's in the onion family, just break off a leaf, a stem, and just kind of crush it and smell it, and it has that lovely green onion smell. So that is what makes it so resistant to your rabbits, and again has low to average water needs. So we love that. Next, for my folks that have a shade garden, the crested surf fern from Proven Winners. This is a really fun Japanese painted fern, but what makes it different from other Japanese painted ferns is that on the tips of the fronds, it's double crested. So it has like this little fringy tip to it. So that makes it really fun. And in my opinion, can you ever have too many Japanese painted ferns in your shade garden? I think not. So crested surf is going to be also a bit more vigorous, and it's going to be a bit more taller than maybe other Japanese painted ferns. We think Japanese painted ferns are kind of low and wide. Crested surf will actually get some height to it. It's going to be perfect for the middle of the border in your shade garden. It is, of course, perfect for moist, shady areas. With ferns, as a general rule, especially your Japanese painted ferns, they like that consistent water. So if you have an area in your shade garden that stays more damp, then think about adding that crested surf, because I know in the shade sometimes where we have those hostas and those more tender perennials that rabbits are attracted to. So dot in your crested surfs and you will be good to go. It is going to be obviously a shade garden. So part to full shade, so that means 4 hours, maybe 5 hours if it was just morning sun or less. And this is going to depend on your zone. It's hardy in zones 3 to 8, so it's very cold tolerant. And again, keep in mind, be a student of your own garden. The cooler your climates are, typically the more sun they can take. I'm a zone 8A, so I'm on the warm side of this. So I definitely only want to have a couple hours of morning sun, and that is it. I cannot do bright, hot afternoon sun. They will fry. This is going to be 22 inches tall and 30 inches wide. So it's going to have a really nice presence in your garden, paired with your other shade perennials and annuals. Now, next is a new one this year. This is Stand By Me Pink Clematis. We've had Stand By Me in other colors. Now we have pink. Now, this Stand By Me Pink Clematis is really nice because it's a completely herbaceous clematis, meaning that you can cut it all the way back down to the ground in the winter, late winter, early spring, before you get any growth on it. You can completely cut it back and all the growth will come back brand new every single spring. Flowers will appear profusely beginning in late spring, peaking in early summer, and then continuing to show color until fall. So you've got this beautiful display where you have this nice kind of upright, because it can get 42 inches tall and 26 inches wide. So it's going to get a nice presence to it and just covered in those pink flowers. And then after the flowers are done, you're going to get attractive cream thread-like seed heads that follow with that broad green foliage. So even after the flowers disappear, you still have a lot of interest, and then you're going to have repeat blooms on that throughout the season. Now, because it is a clematis, it does benefit from being staked or put a cage around it. Or like you can do what I did in the signature garden is I just put it next to taller plants that it can support on those plants and kind of use that as the support to go up. I am in the greenhouse and my fellas are working on electrical today. So if you hear some commotion, just know we're in active construction zone around here because we got to multitask right here at Gardening with Creekside. So obviously I'm in the new production greenhouse and Andrew and Jerry are finishing up electrical. And so if you hear something, that's all it is. Next, also the Stand By Me pink is deer resistant. So that is really, really nice, hardy in zones 3 to 7. So extremely cold tolerant, and me being a zone 8, I am trying it. I am trying this plant because I have heard of other people in my zone have had great success with it. So we're going to go ahead and give it a whirl, right? So gardening is one big experiment. So if you really are attracted to a plant and you really want to go for it, but maybe the zones or the sun could be a little iffy, I just say go for it. You know, why not? It's a plant. It'll be fun, right? Next, this is a whole series, but we're going to highlight 2 of them because I absolutely adore the Rainbow Rhythm Daylilies from Proven Winners. Our friends at Walters Gardens are the breeders of these guys. And they are just the most phenomenal daylilies ever. They have massive blooms on them. You get this great green like grass kind of foliage on them. They have a long bloom period and they come in a range of colors and sizes and just all sorts of fun things, right? So Rainbow Rhythm Daylilies, rabbit resistant. The first one we're going to look at are we have 2 new varieties that are coming out this year. I want to share with you. And we've talked about these before, but Blazing Glory. Blazing Glory has 6-inch golden yellow flowers with bold burgundy red eye and matching picotee edge. So this is a really fun one because you've got this really deep golden yellow with this bright burgundy surrounding the plant in the flower in various areas. And it also has kind of a little bit of an edge around it, kind of a little frilly kind of look to it. And if you're familiar with King of Ages, because King of Ages is another Rainbow Rhythm from Proven Winners, this is when the flower is going to be a little bit smaller and the plant is going to be a little bit smaller, about 6 inches shorter. So if King of Ages was too big for you, check out Blazing Glory. As all daylilies are going to be full to part sun, and they are hardy in zones 3 to 9. So, I mean, that is a huge range of growing zones. So, zones 3 to 9, it is going to be 32 inches tall and 24 inches wide. And as most daylilies are, it is going to be bee-friendly, attracts your butterflies and your hummingbirds, and just a great presence in your garden. We have this in multiple areas in the display gardens at the nursery. Cannot wait to see them in all their glory. The next one, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Now, I love this name because I joke because I'm like, every gardener can attest to this. We've all poured in blood, sweat, and tears into our gardens. I was doing a little research though, and it was the breeder was like, finally, I've put blood, sweat, and tears into trying to get this beautiful red daylily, and he finally got it. And so that was how he came up with the name, which I absolutely love. I have massive 6-inch raspberry red flowers that are complemented by a wide rosy pink eye that leads to a yellow throat. And it has a thin white margin on the edge of each petal. It is a beautiful, beautiful flower. And again, we have it in mass planting in the display gardens at the nursery. It is going to be absolutely stunning. Also, this was bred in Minnesota, so it can absolutely take that cold weather. It is extremely cold hardy, still the same as most daylilies, right? Full to part sun, those zones 3 to 9. This is going to be a little bit shorter though than your Blazing Glory, 28 inches tall at 24 inches wide. So Blood, Sweat, and Tears, cannot wait to see this one when it is in full bloom this coming summer. Now, Nephofia. If you're familiar with Nephofia, if you don't know that name, maybe you know red hot poker, right? Again, this is what I call a grandmama plant. Your grandmother probably had some red hot pokers in her garden. Well, Proven Winners has the Pyromania series, and the Pyromania series, as its name suggests, is a rainbow of hot colors, including red, oranges, and yellows. And there's multiple different varieties within that Pyromania series. They're all going to be rabbit resistant. One that we're going to look at today is Solar Flare. Solar Flare is bright, sunny yellow flowers that hold that consistent color throughout the season. Nephofia is really fun in the garden because it has a very upright habit to it. Has this beautiful green grass-like foliage that really does resemble a grass. So when it's not blooming, a lot of people at the nursery think that it is a grass. Where I am in North Carolina, a zone 8A, it is an evergreen. So even right now, and we're approaching mid-January, it is still nice and lush and green. I do like to give it a really good haircut right at the end of winter going into spring because it will flush out all this brand new growth. Now, the Pyromanias and the Solar Flare are also great because they're rebloomers. So they just keep producing flowers all summer long. Of course, you get the initial big flush, right? But then as the season goes, you're just seeing it pops up over and over and over again. Really, really fun. You can deadhead those old ones. I do just to keep the plant looking clean. Whenever I'm in there, I'll just go through and just snip it, once every 2 weeks, just clean up the plant. It's going to be full sun, definitely full sun, so you get that nice, strong, upright habit on it. And it's going to be 3.5 feet tall, so it's going to be a good size in your garden. Depending on your garden, it could be in the middle or the back. Just depends on what you got going on in there. So 3.5 feet tall and 2.5 feet wide. Nephofia is a great drought-tolerant plant, so low to average water needs, and it attracts your butterflies, your hummingbirds, your bees, and it is deer resistant as well. Love Nephofia. I think it is really underused in the garden, so check it out. Solar Flare is beautiful with that big bright yellow. Can you tell I like yellow? I have a lot of yellow in my garden. Next is Nepeta. Nepeta, also known as catmint. So if you notice, these plants that have a scent to them when they are broken or crushed tend to be more pest resistant. Nepeta, catmint, is in that mint family. When you crush it, it has a very nice kind of that herbaceous minty smell to it, and that's why it's called catmint. It's because when it's crushed, cats are attracted to that smell. Now I have 2 of them that I'm going to share with you. One is the great Cat's Pajamas by Proven Winners, right? So I think if you are a follower of Proven Winners, you know Cat's Pajamas really, really well. This is going to be a bit of a shorter, smaller variety than Cat's Meow, also what Proven Winners has. And it's going to bloom 2 to 3 weeks earlier than Cat's Meow. Now, Cat's Meow is a great plant. I have it in the signature garden. But if you're looking for something shorter and an earlier bloom, go with Cat's Pajamas. If you're like me, just plant them both, right? Because you have a great succession of color in your garden. Also, Cat's Pajamas is going to be different than other Nepeta because it blooms all the way down from the base of the stem at the soil all the way up the stem. So when your Cat's Pajamas is in bloom, the whole plant is absolutely covered in blue flowers. Massive pollinator attractor. Your honeybees love this plant. It is going to be in full sun. You want that 6 hours plus to get that nice strong habit on it. Hardy in zones 3 to 8. With the blooms, it's going to be 14 inches tall by 20 inches wide. So it's got a nice kind of a wider habit to it. Low to water average needs. Attracts your butterflies, your hummingbirds, your bees. Is also deer resistant. Little growing tip, after your cat's pajamas is a nice big full bloom and you start to notice that the blooms are starting to fade, give it a nice haircut. Just give it a little trim and it will reflush and then it will just keep producing flowers. Not quite as strong as your spring flush, but don't be afraid to go ahead and prune it to get more flowers. New one on the market is Chartreuse on the loose. If you've been around us for like the last year, because it's almost been a year since we started to trial this plant, I love Chartreuse on the loose. By its name, it is a beautiful chartreuse color. Bright yellow, lime green chartreuse color that has beautiful purple flowers on it. Chartreuse really does give you, and Proven Winners said it gives you 3 seasons of interest. Where I am, it's giving me 4. Even in January, it is still bright yellow. From a distance, you can see that beautiful foliage on it. You get that cluster of lavender blue flowers, and those flowers are continuous bloomers. So whereas with Cat's Pajamas, we need to give it a little trim, Chartreuse on the loose, you don't. You can literally just leave it alone. Now, if you need to clean up your plant, you can, and it's certainly not going to hurt to give it a little trim, but it will produce those beautiful lavender blue flowers all season long without you trimming it. It is going to be full sun, zones 3 to 8. It is going to be 10 inches tall, but 24 inches wide. So she makes a great presence. And because it is so short, it is perfect for the front of your border. That is where I have it. So you just put it, that beautiful chartreuse color. If you can plant either them in mass or put multiples throughout a flower bed to kind of continue that color along, it will just really pop in the garden, especially if you do something dark behind it. And it is deer resistant as well. So there you go. Next, pink profusion salvia. I'm just going to be honest, y'all, I was never a fan of perennial salvia until I found pink profusion. It just didn't do it for me. They would bloom once and they were okay. I would rather just do the annual salvia. Well, our friends at Walters sent me some of the pink profusion, and oh my word, they completely changed my mind on perennial salvia. Pink profusion is just an amazing plant with gorgeous, stunning blooms. Because it is such an amazing plant, it is the perennial of the year for 2024 for Proven Winners. So, y'all, you need this plant. It has dark pink flowers that are produced on darker pink calyxes. That's what holds the flower. So even after the flower falls off on the stem, you still have a really pretty color on the stem. Has a nice rounded dense habit to it. Really just a nice neat and tidy plant. You can shear it back a lot like your NEPA. You can shear it back after those flowers are done, and then you will get a reflush later on in the summer. Now, this is going to be a shorter salvia, so this is going to be really nice either tucked in between other taller perennials or things in your garden, or you can plant them in mass on the front edge. It will be stunning. It's going to be full sun, right? Salvia, full sun, hardy in zones 3 to 8, and it's going to be 16 inches tall by 20 inches wide. So not incredibly tall, but it has a nice wide presence to it. Low to water average needs, and it too is deer resistant, because if you've ever kind of crushed salvia, it too has kind of that minty smell to it. So we love that about the pink profusion salvia. Next is one that is I think it's highly underused. I think it's highly underrated, but it is definitely one of my all-time favorite perennials. Ascot Rainbow Euphoria. Spurge. Ascot Rainbow is just a beautiful, mainly foliage. It will bloom, but for me, it's very insignificant. What we're concerned about is that beautiful upright foliage on it. It's a very unique variegated foliage where you've got some green, you've got some yellow, you'll have some burgundy and some orange depending on, what the season is. It has a really kind of a very soft, feathery leaves to it, and again, very vertical, very upright. It is one of those plants that when I walk by, I have to touch. I have to run my fingers through it. And also it has a and I don't know how to describe this, but it's a very kind of an earthy musk odor. I don't know if that would be the right word. I personally find it very soothing and comforting. It's probably is why the rabbits don't like it, because it will, and it's not all the time, but it will sometimes give off that fragrance. And then of course, when you cut back your spurge and your euphorbia, you'll get a little bit of a milky substance that's kind of sticky. So I'm imagining that the rabbits do not find that very attractive. It's going to be full to part sun, zones 5 to 9. So again, very adaptable, 20 inches tall and wide. Nice presence in the garden. Again, it too is deer resistant. Next is a new Artemisia on the market this year from Proven Winners.
I was trialing this last year and I love it. It is silver lining Artemisia. So Artemisia is a beautiful, again, like your Ascot rainbow, you're going to do it for your foliage. It is mainly a foliage plant, but Artemisia has a really silver is the best way to describe it. It has a little bit of blue undertones, but really a nice silver color to it. Now, silver lining has broadly dissected silver leaves that are showy from spring to fall. Like I finally had to cut mine back in, gosh, it was like late November, early December. And it has a nice mounded, low, but wide habit that is perfect in all seasons, right? And it, like other Artemisia, it doesn't split open. It has that nice tight habit to it. Now, it will do some yellow flowers that will pop up on it, but again, you're mainly getting this perennial for the foliage color. So you will get some yellow flowers on it, but just main thing is that you're looking at that beautiful silver foliage on it. The other great thing about the silver lining is that it's not going to take over your garden. Artemisias, historically, they will send out runners underground, and so they will spread that way. So they have these rhizomes that will go out and then pop up. Silver lining does not do that. It just has a beautiful, nice, big mound of your roots. When I cut mine back, I cut it all the way back to that main root crown, and there were no runners, there were no little babies popping up somewhere else where they should not have been. So it is a very well-behaved, very polite plant in your garden. It is going to be full sun. It is going to be in zones 4 to 9, 16 inches tall by 36 inches wide. Low to average water needs. It too is deer resistant. And then last, but certainly not least, we have a shrub. Our one shrub. This is Budia. It is the Pugster Pinker. I dare say it is my favorite Pugster butterfly bush because Pinker has very bright pink blooms on it. Now, the other Pugsters are also rabbit resistant. I just like Pinker. Clearly, I do enjoy a good pink color. So the Pinker has very rich pink flowers. There is a Pugster Pink. They came out with Pinker because it has pinker, richer flowers. And then they'll have a little tiny bright orange eye in the center of the flower. Now, the Pugsters we love because they produce these nice, big, beautiful, full-size blooms on a very compact plant. Nice dwarf frame. It'll only be 24 inches tall by 30 inches wide. Now, if you're going into more of the warmer zones because it's hardy in zones 5 to 9, with us at an 8, I have noticed that mine probably get more of a 3x3 size. So the warmer you go, maybe going to be a little bit on the larger size. So just keep that in mind when you're placing them into your garden. Of course, butterfly bushes are those continuous bloomers. They continuously are putting on new flowers throughout the season. If you want to deadhead, you can. You don't have to. That's a total personal preference on that one. Butterfly bushes are most definitely full sun, like I said, zones 5 to 9. They are deer resistant as well, and they bloom on new growth. So you're going to want to prune it at the end of winter going into spring. And if for some reason maybe you had a really hungry rabbit and it did come through and it chewed on the shrub just a little bit, no fret. It will rebloom as long as you can keep the rabbit from chewing on it again. So that is the list of plants that I was able to research that were tried and true rabbit resistant plants. I hope that this has been helpful. Again, please put the comments if you're like, I know this is a great rabbit resistant plant that people can use. All of the plants that I listed today are available on gardeningwithcreekside.com. So you can head over to the website. We'll have it listed for you right here. And we are doing pre-orders. So because it is January, right, y'all, it is the middle of January. I am not going to be sending you plants right now. We will send them to you when it is appropriate for your growing zone. As always, I hope you have found this fun, informative, and inspirational, even for you sweet people who have to deal with rabbits. You too can have a beautiful garden throughout the entire year. As always, we so appreciate you. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.